Earlier this week, I sat down with Kevin Wiles, a Blueprint member, to talk about some issues that he's having with a client in regards to their e-commerce website, faceted navigation, and folder structures. We dove deep into some suggestions he can make for his client site for how to fix these things and improve the technical SEO performance of his client's e-commerce website. And as always, guys, if you guys need help with anything relating to your agency, SEO questions, marketing questions, my calendar is open. I do offer one-on-one consulting for full Blueprint members. So if you guys are interested, you can hop on over to the blueprint.training to sign up and learn more. Hopefully you guys enjoy this conversation.
This is the site. So if I'll go over the URL structure stuff first. So they've got this like wallpaper section, which makes perfect sense. And then they've made this like all wallpaper section, which is then no indexed but followed. So it's like a duplicate version of the previous page, but lists like what I would call like a product listing page, whereas the previous page was like a category listing page. Now, this all makes sense, but if I go back one, you've got this Sun wallpaper, which is a brand they stock. When you click this, you then get wallpaper, Sun wallpaper, all Sun paper, and then subsequent categories all following the kind of wallpaper structure. But then if I go to brands and then do brands Sun, you then get a completely different URL structure, which obviously then they all compete and they all they all have different product URLs. And I was talking to them earlier in the week, and if you're then back in like, if I go here and apply a filter, obviously then puts a facet on it, so then it creates that's also indexable, so creates another one. And I was trying to talk to them over there about how they could consolidate it so that they don't have like all of this basically like trash.
Good question. So let's start with the URL structure before the faceted. I would so this is the URL that I like right here. Just the /:sun. Number one, I mean, you already know the closer to the root URL you can get, the better. And also to me, just like the amount of subfolders that can get thrown into this. And if you go back to, so this would be the page that I would want to default to, just because number one, the URL structure, number two, the actual content on this page is much more representative of Sun wallpaper. If you go back, just hit back a couple times, this one. So I would actually probably set up my first thought would be to set up a 301 redirect from this one into the other one. Because if you scroll down to like the actual content on this page is not it's not necessarily a good match because you have the all Sun. I don't know if these other ones are Sun. It's a little bit kind of confusing, especially for how we just came from. So what I would look to do is to just set up one default URL, which the easiest way to fix that, just without like really fucking with the CMS, would be to just use redirects, right? And because there's no people can just use the back or directional things, you might be able to try and sell them on go up. Do they have breadcrumbs on the site? Okay. So I would probably just redirect these. Like the first thing you have to do is get a full crawl, obviously, and then just really tedious, just kind of URL mapping. So you just kind of got to start by asking yourself, like, of the assets that we have, like number one, before you even ask yourself that, like you just want to make sure that you're doing two things. Number one is the least amount of effort possible. And number two is things that are not going to just massively impact the UX over the SEO, right? So to me, something like cutting out the sub wallpaper folder structure when somebody clicks on Sun is not a big UX thing, because people can just hit the back button and they'll just redirect back to where they were. So after that, what you want to do again is then just say, okay, what is the best of all these pages that we have? What's the best possible version? And what are the duplicates or the lower quality versions? And then from there, I think you can just go through like a redirect mapping exercise where you're taking the lower quality version, just kind of hitting a checklist to be like, if I redirect this page into the naked URL one, the shorter URL one, is it going to impact number one UX? Is it going to improve search? If it's no, it's not going to impact US. Yes, it should improve search. Then I would go ahead and set up those redirects. So that's just kind of the first thought on how I would handle on handling these ones. Because just, I agree, like it looks like they just have too many kind of categories, which can happen sometimes when people are trying to just get too cute with things. Or if they're trying to mask the fact that they actually don't have as much inventory as a much larger retailer, then they can set up a lot of these categories and try and like trap people into coming to these pages. But it's just not a good experience, in my opinion. And this page is subpar to the other one. Because again, I just look at it, it's confusing because it's all colon sun and then contemporary restyle. Does that mean that it's colon sun, all these?
Yeah, these are all like these are all kind of like a type of colon sun wallpaper. So like this contemporary restyled one is a colon sun collection, if you like, that then sends you to 3 folder structures deep before then you can apply these other fields.
So that's going to be the other thing then, right? Is that, so I didn't realize that folder structure stays the same when you click. I'm glad you did that, because now you're going to have to deal with the fact maybe redirects won't be an option. So can you go to the root colon sun one again?
This one?
Now, yeah, now click on the same one there.
So this takes you back into the wallpapers.
Okay. So if that's the case, then you're probably going to have to go the opposite way. So I would then get rid of, because then it's just going to be too much in terms of like messing with folder structure. So instead of redirecting, instead of making this one that you're on now the final page, I would actually just get rid of these. I would redirect these into the other ones, because then again, when we go back to talking about least amount of effort and just kind of like fucking with the overall site structure, that would cause all sorts of other just kind of issues. But this, to me, if this is the only version of these pages, this is just kind of like a page that they created to sit on top of the other category pages.
Yeah.
I would just literally redirect this into the other one. And then in these category pages that you're in now, just use the other version. Yeah. And maybe so go back to the other one, the other tab that you have open. So then what I would do with these pages, go back to the colon sun wallpaper collections page, just go back one on this one.
Sorry, this one.
Then what I would do, so now we're in a good place. So I would take the tab to the right, redirect it into this one, and then kind of ask yourself, how can we improve the quality of this page here? So going back, go to the other tab real quick. So you can see this one has a little bit more context. It looks like they're a little bit more organized here. Maybe you can just take some of those kind of UX elements and roll them into the other page when you redirect this. You know what I'm saying? So you might be able to just kind of take this page template and just drop it on top of the other one. Again, these are all just kind of like recommendations and conversations that you can make to the client, just to kind of give them options and then let them choose. But again, you just want to make sure that the basis of your recommendations are making sure that search is taken care of.
Yeah. And does that matter? So in terms of like the current rankings, for example, when you search like colon sun wallpaper, this page I'm on now will rank, not this one.
If you redirect it, it should be fine, as long as both pages are about the same thing. And again, like what I would do is, number one is kind of dig into the root of that. Is it because this page has more links, or is it because this page is just optimized better on page wise? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think you can combine the two of those. If you redirect it, the links will pass over. It's not a problem at all. And it's just like the whole thing with like the no index and canonicals, that just gets very messy, and it just becomes more content to manage too, which is just not a good use of resources. So yeah, I would just get rid of these pages then and then redirect them into the wallpapers, and then improve the quality of those wallpaper pages and like put a lot of focus on those, the wallpaper sub-focus pages. And in regards to the faceted nav, so now that other page, does this one have the faceted nav issues too?
So that it's weird. So that you go in colon sun wallpaper, which is like the main wallpaper, like for colon sun, and then you can't. The way this page has been designed is it doesn't actually show products at this level. So it just literally lists all the collections, and then again it goes, "Hey, here's all wallpaper for colon sun," which then puts you into like a product listing page, which then gives you a facet. So now I'm in like the folder structure is now wallpaper colon sun, and then all colon sun wallpaper. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure if this.
So check out the source. Is that canonicalized back into the other one?
This page I'm on now is no index.
Okay, I would canonicalize that
back to the other page.
Yeah, either way, I actually have a really good article on faceted navigation that just talks about. I'll follow up with some kind of verbiage or literature on the different ways you can deal with it. There's all sorts of things. Again, like I'm not really familiar with the CMS. I actually didn't even hear what you said the CMS was. It doesn't really matter at this point, but I would say that there's different ways that you can skin the cat when it comes to faceted navigation, and it really just comes down to number one is what does a CMS allow for without having to go into custom dev, and then number two, like what is the level of effort of that on the dev team to get that done. So in all, there's also SEO implications too. So like the difference between like no index pages still get crawled really heavily, right? Yep. they have to get crawled to be realized as no index. So if you have a lot of those pages, a lot of those no index pages, it can really bog down your crawl rate, right? So in that sense, a canonical tag is a little bit better. It saves a little bit more on crawl budget. Again, I'll send you the literature so you can review them, but no index is one option, but canonical is probably the preferred one by Google, just because like that's basically telling Google, hey, our CMS is generating extra pages. We're using this directive that you developed for this purpose to tell you which is the proper page. You know what I'm saying? Like the other option would be like the proper way to build this page would have been to build that with some sort of like, I don't know if I'm using the right dev term, but like jQuery function where that doesn't load a new URL when you want to add a filter. And then all the facets that happen behind that are really kind of not irrelevant, but as long as the root folder has the proper directive with canonicals or no index, no follow, whatever you decide to go with, then you don't have to worry about it too much.
Yeah. Because I think, so I'm on this all wallpaper Collinson now, right? Which is essentially the only going to show me all Collinson wallpaper. But then if I use the current facet and go, let's go silver. Obviously at the moment, this will then put me in a horrible URL parameter, which is like Mava filter. And this obviously creates tens and tens of thousands of different filters. Yep. So my view was that at this level, because there won't be any search volume behind like silver Collinson wallpaper, would be to have these as like probably Ajax or something where they're not going to create a new filter. But then at the all wallpaper, like overall main category page, is to build those facets so that they can start up here for like red wallpaper, green wallpaper, etc., etc.
Yeah. So that you have to cross verify. So like in theory, yes, you're right. That would be the proper way to deal with it if there was search volume to support that. So that would just be the thing that you would want to do, is just verify that there's search volume to justify that. And that's really site-wide too, because if you're going to want to make these adjustments, it's going to be site-wide, not just based on specific brands, right? Yep. So I don't know enough about wallpaper to make that determination, especially in the UK. But I would just say that, you always want to make sure that like I said, that the SEO, like the upside of the SEO implications, like if there's no search volume or 5 searches a month for that. I mean, like in another way to look at that too, is that if somebody's looking for red Collinson wallpaper, if they come to the Collinson wallpaper category page, is it accessible enough for them to find what they're looking for without leaving the page?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Which means that you're keeping us like a smaller site. And when I say a smaller site too, a lot of people think big sites are good, but smaller site to me just means that every page is delivering some sort of search value. Yep. So to me, a smaller site in that sense is better, just because then again, like, man, when you start dealing with all these different things, not only is the level of effort huge, but it's going to cost the client money, and they're going to be looking at you like, hey, like if we're going to do all this work, it had better pay off. Yep. And the payoff for that is usually pretty low. Plus all the additional headaches that you then have of dealing with all of these kind of facets in the future as well.
Oh, that makes sense. And then I just, so that's kind of pretty much answered all my URL structure and stuff. And then I just wanted to pick your brains in terms of, obviously, like with every SEO client, they want like what they would call, or what non-SEO people would refer to as like quick wins.
Yep.
In terms of that, what's your usual like go-to approach to be like, these are things that could scale results like in the like immediate without doing like bigger things
for this website?
Yeah, or for this, or for e-commerce in general.
Yeah, so I think number one is actually I think what you're doing, technical SEO, with a site like this, when they have, if you ask me that question for like an attorney website, I would tell you not even to look into technical SEO. But for a site like this, where you know that there's technical issues, you can see the issues with duplicate and stuff like that. I can't believe it said duplicate content. Then I would put this as number one, because these small things on a site this size can have really big effects. And then once you kind of check these things off too, you can kind of sleep at night to know that like there's nothing stepping in your way in terms of like, if you wanted to build links or create content, that the technical things that are just making you be like, why isn't this working? So I would say number one is definitely keep doing this, get this done. Number two is just it's like really is on page stuff for product pages. So mapping keyword searches to products, to categories, making sure titles are written properly. That the on page body text is written well, multimedia on the page, and then after that is links. When it comes to like low hanging fruit, and what I would segment that by too, if it's a large website, is just getting a massive export of all the pages in their top keyword ranking, and just finding the pages that are kind of like teetering on those quote unquote low hanging fruit keywords, right? So if this, for example, Sun wallpaper page is ranking like position 11 for Sun wallpaper, then this would be one that you can kind of deep dive and focus on, right? So you can take a deeper look at this and be like, hey, maybe if we added 3 times as much text here based on keyword searches, we can pump up the searches there. Maybe if we change the title tags. And then of course, links, man. I mean, links are still always kind of like the thing that can push pages over the edge. Get out of here. Sorry, my dog just bumped in. And after that, so after you go through that, and that's kind of the good thing about ecom is that that's like a couple of months, if not like a year worth of a campaign just doing that, depending on, the scope of the work, how many pages they have, how much you're charging them for each page or hours, whatever system you're working on. But then after that is content, man. Like e-commerce sites still sleep on content marketing. But it's super easy, dude. Like I'm in the process of buying a house, remodeling and all that and stuff. So I'm somewhat familiar with the space, just knowing what I, as a consumer, search for. Like I'm probably 6 months to a year out from even buying a house, let alone decorating it, all that stuff, right? And I'm still looking at this type of stuff. So I'm really looking at like pre funnel, top funnel searches, which are things like design inspiration, like, modern fart, like all the different types of design styles. Like if you have those products on the website, you should be creating content around them, and it's super easy. And then on top of that too, is like taking that, putting it on Pinterest, like all the different, like kind of house, like all the different platforms like that. To me, to just kind of like spread your footprint and then drive people through. And then also like image search is huge and stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, just if you really put yourself in the shoes of these customers, and like even before they're customers, like what are they searching for and how are they accessing that content? Like I'm a lot of times going straight to Google Images, searching, and then finding content off of images, so I would say like that too. And content is usually in the space like this, like pretty low effort. Because it's pretty easy to write.
Yeah.
It's just really about putting together like a couple of good outlines and then being like, hey, this is what we're looking like. Top 10 trends for spring floors, top 10 wallpaper trends for 2020, like shit like that, like really pops off in the SERPs.
And in terms of, sorry, last question I've got, I promise. In terms of one of the things I just thought about is at the moment, the product URLs it creates, essentially this product I'm hovering over now will have like 10 different URLs, because in every category it's merchandising, it creates a new product URL. Should I try and consolidate those so this would be all the products sit in one category and they can just be cross merchandised?
Yeah, and you can use redirects for that. Does this platform Demandware?
It's OpenCart.
OpenCart, okay. Yeah, there was a similar thing with Demandware. We used to work with this retailer in the UK who did supplements, and they were having the same issue where like they had products that could be sold under multiple categories, and they kept creating, and the CMS all of a sudden spun up like what we found, like 20 different versions of the same product, but in different categories, which we really just cleaned up with redirects. And then we just had like, it's just kind of a pain in the ass process to then go through, number one, from like a technical, like crawl point of view to make sure that, hey, all these pages are redirected. But then number two is that are people able to access the right product from the same, different positions? That's easy to fix with redirects. The only thing that can break sometimes would be breadcrumbs there, because if they're accessing it from different categories. But it's not really a big deal to me. You just want to make sure that you have one product page that's consolidated into the right URL.
And the breadcrumb stuff, would you keep that static? So let's say I moved all the Sun wallpaper products just into Sun wallpaper. Would you have the breadcrumb then home brand Sun wallpaper, or would you have it to be dynamic so it follows the user in the entry point?
I mean, dynamic would be ideal. I mean, the point of breadcrumbs are to help people understand where they are on the website, right? So it could technically be confusing if it was static, I guess static meaning if I came from one part of the website and the product pages were redirected, then the breadcrumbs would be different than the actual path that I followed. Right?
Yeah.
So if it's possible, I don't know enough about the CMS. If it's possible to, like, obviously the best situation is to have the breadcrumbs follow the path that they got there, especially with a site like this, dude. I mean, breadcrumbs are actually like really important because of the different levels of entry points for all these different things, and like potentially having multiple product pages, category pages. Like, dude, there's definitely a lot of work to be done on this website.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. It's a really good thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully they see the value and they understand that this is probably like a 6-month project just to get these things like fully identified, roadmap set up, and then the dev team is going to take them a while to get this stuff done.
Yeah, sweet. All right, wicked.
All right, man. You got any more questions?
No, those were the burning ones that I just wanted to clear up and get some kind of sense check on.
Yeah, cool.
Sweet, man.
All right, brother.
All right, speak to you in a bit.
Take care, man.
See you, man.